Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our gentle yoga class. I have props that we can use: blanket, chair, bolster, blocks, strap. Um, we're starting on the fifth yama today, which is the yamas and niyamas by Deborah Adele. So I'll read some quotes on that one. So go ahead and just start out in any comfortable position. You might start by lying on your back. Maybe you come into constructive rest pose. So you might walk your feet as wide as the mat and then allow the knees to sort of tent in together so they will look kind of like this. Well, that maybe from the peonies. As you begin to arrive, you can start to deepen your breath and then just sort of allow these words to wash over you, thinking about coming into the present moment. The theme for today is called Aparigraha, which means non-possessiveness. So here is a quote on that theme from the book by Deborah Adele. She says, non-attachment does not mean we don't care or that we somehow shut ourselves off from the pleasure and joy of life and each other. In fact, non-attachment frees us up to be immersed in appreciation of life and one another. We are asked to let go of the clinging to the thing, not the enjoyment of the thing itself. Letting go of the ownership opens us up to full engagement with what is set before us in the present moment. Life becomes a banquet and we are free to feast. Like the breath, we are invited to breathe in deeply, enjoying the fullness of the inhalation, and then let go just as deeply and fully enjoying the release of the exhalation. So see if these words resonate with you, and then think about, can you form an intention for your practice today? Something you'd like to cultivate, or even something you'd like to let go of. From this place on your back, we'll start to walk the feet out as wide as the mat. And then you can gently begin to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. Go at the pace of your own breath. You can spread your arms out in a letter T. And you might begin to pause on each side, maybe turning your gaze in the opposite direction. Finding that nice stretch along the side of the neck and maybe down along the side of the waist. Just notice where you feel sensation in the body. The next time your knees float over to the right, take a moment to pause there. Turn your gaze over towards your left hand and just allow yourself to sink into the support of the earth, letting go of all effort, letting go of expectations. And then we'll lift the knees through center, bring the nose back up to center, and then you can turn your gaze to the right as your knees soften and land on the left. Giving yourself a moment to pause here. Sinking into the support of the earth, noticing where you can relax, let go of holding. Breathing into those spaces of tension or tightness with kindness and compassion. And then we'll come back to center. We're going to do a little bit of a stretch here for the shoulder. So you can walk your feet in towards your sit bones. Your knees are pointing up towards the sky. See if you can align your spine, and then we're going to roll all the way onto the right side. Tuck your left hand right on your mid back or your low back. Find a place where the back of your hand can rest, and then you can roll back on to your hand. And maybe you feel this stretch through the top of the shoulder, the front of the shoulder. I actually also really like the sensation along my back, kind of a little bit of a stretch through the spine. And just take some nice deep breaths here. You can always make adjustments if it's uncomfortable. Allowing for your ujjayi breathing, your nice deep breath, to help soothe your nervous system. Feel the rise and fall of your belly. You can always keep your feet on the ground or feel free to stretch your legs long. Maybe that changes the sensation. I just kept the feet on the ground in order to make it easier to turn to one side. Go ahead and take one more nice deep breath here. If you've stretched your legs long, you can rotate the ankles and then slide the heels back in to make it easier to roll onto your right side to release your left arm. And then let's just take a moment to come back to center and pause, noticing the differences from left to right, seeing how that felt on one side, noticing how your left arm might feel differently than your right arm. And then allow your right arm to get a turn now. So we'll roll onto our left side. You can tuck your right hand behind you with your palm facing out. So the back of your hand is resting on somewhere along your spine. Maybe your mid back. Maybe you can move it up towards the upper back. And then we'll roll onto the back. So your arm is kind of tucked under. This is a little bit like when we're seated and we do this It's called Gomukhasana or cow face arms. Maybe we'll do that one seated just to feel the difference. See if you want to keep your knees bent or if you want to slide your legs long. Maybe it would feel good to rotate the ankles. Notice the rise and fall of your breath. And we'll take one more nice deep breath on this side. And then when you're ready, you can glide your heels in, plant your feet on the mat, shift over to your left side to free your right hand, and then roll onto your back, just taking a moment here to pause. Now we're going to reach for a block so that you can have a block handy. You can just have it close to your hips. Go ahead and walk your elbows in towards your rib cage. You can flare your fingertips up towards the sky, stretching your palms to face in towards each other. We're going to take a few pelvic rocks and then come up into a bridge. So you can start to inhale, lift your low back up off of the mat so you're arching your spine. And then exhale, we'll press the low back towards the mat, lift the hips a little bit, or you can even just tuck the tailbone, press into the heels, and maybe you start with some baby bridges, some just gentle pelvic tilts. You might think about how you can engage your core here. So drawing your low belly, your abs in towards your belly, towards your spine. Belly button comes towards your spine. Just maybe energetically. There might not be any physical movement that's visible. Now you can start to grow your bridges a little bit taller. Pressing into your heels, you might lift your hips to hover over the earth. And then just like a string of pearls, you can allow your spine to come back down one vertebrae at a time. You might explore the breath, what it feels like. The next time you press up into bridge, either find, if you want it to be a little bit softer of a lift, you could use a bolster instead, but I'm going to use the block. So as you lift up into bridge, you're going to take the block and slide it underneath the low back. So you have a little bit of a lift. If that feels too tender on your low back, you could even think about using a blanket to cover the top of the block for more padding, or you could also use a bolster instead, sliding the bolster underneath the low back. From here, we're going to try to do a stretch for the hip flexor, the front of the hip. So you could walk your left leg long, so you're kind of opening up through that hip. You can either leave your right foot on the ground, or maybe you want to counter stretch and you can draw your right knee in towards your chest and give it a little hug. I'm using the strap around the shin. We're not thinking about going towards discomfort, but sometimes there can be a little bit of discomfort. As long as it's not painful, you might think about how we can respond to discomfort by soothing our nervous system. As long as it's not too pinchy or painful, This we want to avoid. So we're trying to stretch here through the front of the hip. Maybe we have this wind relieving pose in addition by hugging the right knee in. And this can be good for our digestion, giving a little bit of a hug in towards the internal organs, giving them a squeeze. And then when you're ready, you can return your right foot to the mat, your left foot to the mat. Just take a moment to pause in your supported bridge. Next, we'll try the other side. So you can glide that right leg long, opening through the front of the hip. Remembering that if that block is too pinchy, you could always do this with maybe folded blanket or a bolster instead. And then option to bring the left knee in towards the chest, maybe hugging it in with your hands or using a strap around the shin. Seeing about opening through the front of the hip, maybe giving a little squeeze to the belly. Take one more nice deep breath here. Then we'll return the right foot and the left foot to the mat. Press into the heels to lift the hips, and you can release that block off to the side. Now we're going to find a twist, so you can shimmy your heel or your hips. You can bump your hip a little bit over to the right. Allow the knees to stack to the left, and then open your arms out into a letter T. You can turn your gaze over towards your right hand. Just allow yourself a moment to soften into your twist. Stretching your arms into a nice big hug. On the next inhale, we'll float the right arm, just like a rainbow, glide it over the top of the body, and then reach your right fingertips past your left hand. And then you can glide your left hand across, or your right hand across your left arm, opening up back into your twist. Go ahead and take a few rounds just like this. Closing the arms together and then gliding the arm open. Take a few more rounds just like that. And then when you're ready, we're going to roll all the way onto the left side. You might bring a block underneath the head, or you can prop your head up on your hand on your side. So from here, we're going to take some clamshells to strengthen through the glutes. Gluing the heels together, you can start to lift and lower the top knee, keeping the rest of your body relatively anchored and still. See if you can focus the effort into the hip. And as you move the hip, maybe you can offer it gratitude and appreciation. Personally, me, I kind of like the sensation as well of my head resting on the block. Just sort of noticing different sensations you feel. Once you find that moment of fatigue in the muscles, you can pause the action. We'll slide the knees down so now they're in a straight line with the body. And then you can lower the top knee down towards the ground, feeling the stretch through the hip, maybe the side of the leg. From here, you can kind of turn this into another kind of twist by leaning the top shoulder back. And then the option is to stay right here, or some people like to find a bind. Maybe this feels good to reach the top hand down, grab hold of the ankle if it's not within reach, or if it feels like too much of an ask, just leave that part out. Remembering that everything is optional. Take one more nice deep breath here. Maybe take your fist down and give the hip a little gentle, loving tap. Nice massage. And then we're going to move on to the other side. So you can roll back onto your back. I'm just going to turn around so you can still face you. And this time we'll bump the hips to the left, stack the knees over to the right, and open your arms into a letter T. You might turn your gaze over towards your left hand. Allow yourself to relax into your twist. Letting your shoulders be heavy and soft towards the earth. Breathing down along that spiral of your spine. Taking some nice deep breaths. Practicing the warrior breath, Ujjayi breathing. Then we'll start our arm movement. So you can start to reach your left fingertips up and over the body. Draw that gorgeous rainbow as you roll onto your right side. And then you can glide your left fingertips across your inner arm, across your chest, opening back up into your twist. Go ahead and take a few more rounds like this, moving at the pace of your own breath. The next time you roll onto your right side, go ahead and find your support, either pressing your hand against your head, propping up onto your elbow, or you can prop a block or pillow underneath your head. We'll find our clamshells on this side. So gluing the heels together, you can begin to lift and lower the top knee. Send your breath and your gratitude all around the hip joint. thanking it for all it does to support you day to day. When you're getting ready to feel that bit of fatigue, you can soften your effort and then bring your knees back in a straight line with the body. Lift the top knee, lower it down in front to find a stretch through the hip, the glutes. Maybe you want to turn this into a bit of a twist by bringing your hand to your top shoulder and sinking the shoulder back behind you. You could also reach that top hand down to grab hold of the bottom foot in like a cat chasing its tail twist. So whatever feels best for you. You can always leave that part out if it feels out of reach. Maybe just tuck the hand behind you or bring your fist down to your hip and give it a little gentle loving tap. When you're ready, we'll pause this. And then you can either roll onto your back and maybe rock and roll up to a seat. Or since you're here and you're halfway there already, you might just roll onto your belly. And then from here, you can press up to a seat or up to tabletop. Think about what would work best for you. I think I'm going to go ahead and find a seat rather than tabletop. So you might elevate the hips by sitting on a bolster. Remember, you can also sit in a chair and then either cross-legged or maybe you want to stretch your legs out long. So thinking about what feels right for you. We'll take some rounds of cat and cow. So inhale to reach the belly and the heart forward. Exhale to round the spine and lean back. Go ahead and find your version of cat and cow. Allowing yourself to move through your spine. Moving at the pace of your own breath. After a few rounds of cat and cow, feel free to find some spirals with the belly button. Maybe imagining you're tracing the inside of a hula hoop. And you can kind of bring your neck and head into the mix, finding some gentle stretching through the neck. The next time your chest comes forward, why don't you go ahead and reverse the direction of your circles. And then once you're back at center, let's go ahead and extend one leg out to the side. You can turn to face that leg. Inhale to lengthen the spine and then exhale to lean forward over the leg. You might bring blocks to frame the front leg to help support your hands, or you could also lasso the foot with a strap if you want to draw yourself a little bit closer. I kind of rather like the hands on blocks. With each inhale, find some length through the spine, and each exhale, you might fold a tiny bit further towards your leg. allowing your heart to melt towards your leg. At any point, feel free to relax the length in your spine by just folding over the leg, melting your heart forward. On the next inhale breath, we'll rise back to center. Turn the torso to face the center, and then you can stretch both legs long, give them a little shake. And this time we'll bring the opposite leg to the inner thigh. Turn to face that leg, the left leg now. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to fold over. With each inhale, creating a little bit more length. With each exhale, finding a little bit more of a hinge forward, melting towards the leg. At any point, just allow your heart to melt forward. You can round over that leg. And then on the next inhale, we'll press up through center. Exhale to bring the chest forward. Now go ahead and either cross the legs, or you can also have them out wide open to the sides. We're going to find our strap next, and you could also tug on the back of your shirt if you don't have a strap, or maybe you use a kitchen towel. So I'm going to bring the strap into the right hand. This is the Gomukhasana, or cow face arms. Bend the elbow so the elbow's facing upward, and then you can allow the strap to glide down your spine. So it's hanging down parallel to your spine. And you can kind of tuck your chin, lengthen through the back of your neck, and maybe even the back of your head could be pressing against your hand. And then we'll extend the left arm out to the side with the thumb pointing up. Stretch through the fingers, and then you'll rotate the thumb down, glide the hand around behind you to grab hold of the strap, and you can walk the arms any amount towards each other. Staying here, finding that stretch. Do you see how this one is a little bit similar to what we were doing on our back, where we were laying on the arm? Now you can turn your gaze, if you'd like, for a stretch through the neck to peek over the left shoulder. On the next exhale, you might allow your gaze to soften over the cliff of your left side body, kind of bowing your head, tucking your chin towards your chest. And then we'll allow the gaze to sweep across the front of the chest and just peek down underneath the right shoulder, or really the right armpit. When you're ready, you can bring your gaze back to center, release your arms, allow them to rest heavy in your lap, soften through your shoulders. Maybe take a sigh out through the mouth, letting go. Let's take a few shoulder shrugs, just loosening up through the shoulders. Maybe some nice big circles. And then we're going to try the other side. So feel free to keep your legs where they are, or if you feel like you'd like to switch the cross of the legs for fun, you can do that. I kind of already switched them from earlier, so I'm going to leave mine just like this. You can lift your left hand up now with the strap in your hand and then bend the elbow. The strap drapes down your spine. Kind of tuck the chin so your head is maybe pressing into your hand. And then we'll float the right arm out to the side. You can spread the palm wide, stretch the thumb, and then rotate the thumb down, reach it back and around to grab hold of the strap. Some people walk their hands together and clasp their hands. I've never been quite able to do that. That's okay. That's not really the goal here. You can stay with your gaze facing forward. Maybe close down the eyes or soften the gaze. Or feel free to start to peek your gaze around behind your right shoulder if that feels okay for your neck. Breathing into sensations. With each inhale, lengthening the spine. With each exhale, a little bit more space might have been created. And then on your next exhale, you might bow your gaze just slightly down towards the ground beside you, over the cliff of your right side. And then on your next exhale, you might slowly begin to allow your gaze to sweep across the front of your chest, and maybe you turn the gaze underneath your left armpit. So you're kind of cradling your head into your upper arm. Taking some nice deep breaths here. On the next inhale, you can bring your gaze back to center. Release your arms. Allow your hands to rest heavy in your lap. Take a moment to close your eyes as all of the blood returns back. And then we'll go ahead and find a few shoulder rolls, rolling them up towards the ears, and then gliding the shoulder blades down the back. Just to shake it off. When you're ready, we're going to come out of our seat and maybe into downward dog if you want to do a downward dog, or you might skip the down dog and come to a forward fold. That's where we'll all end up meeting up. So you can come onto hands and knees if that feels okay. If you want to skip down dog, you might bring your left foot towards your left hand, bringing your hands onto blocks or onto the chair. Tuck the right toes under, lift the back knee, and then hop the feet together. Getting all of your other props out of the way. You could stay for a moment in your down dog if you like, or meet up with us in a forward fold. Go ahead and walk your feet wide, making room for your torso and for your belly. And then you can wrap your hands around your opposite elbows. Just give yourself a moment here to dangle. Sweetly rocking your torso side to side. Keeping a soft bend in your knees. We'll release the hands back down, and then you can walk the heels a little bit in so they're underneath the hips. Press into your legs or blocks, and then inhale to lift and lengthen the spine up halfway. Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhaling, lifting and lengthening halfway. Exhaling to forward fold. And then find a soft bend in the knees. You can sweep the arms up and overhead. Draw the hands into the heart center. And then come into your mountain pose, Tadasana. Adjusting your clothes as you see fit. You can allow your hands to rest at your sides. Soften your gaze. Feel your feet planted firmly on the ground. And then we're going to play around with a balancing pose, eagle pose. So you can bring your hands towards your rib cage, stretch your fingers out wide, and then glide your arms out. Feel your giant wingspan of your eagle arms. And then on the next exhale, we'll bring the right arm over the top of the left and give yourself a nice big hug, I said. You didn't hear me. And then you can start to rotate the elbows side to side in that hug, finding a little twist at your own pace. And we'll come back to center, giving yourself so much gratitude. You can either keep your hands in this hug, or you might try wrapping your arms into eagle arms. I find that to be a little bit challenging for me at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep my hands exactly where they are. Now we could practice strength in our eagle pose by imagining you were going to sit back in a chair. So you're drawing your belly button towards your spine, sinking your booty back as if there was a chair behind you. So that would be like Utkatasana, chair pose. Or we can stay upright and practice balance by peeling your left heel off of the mat. So you're balancing on the ball of the left toes, rooting down through the right leg. The right leg is your standing leg. The left leg is your kickstand. You could drag that foot across and bring the arch of the foot on top of the right foot. And this is going to require a bit of balance. So you might start to find a focal point, a place where you can gaze at the ground or at the horizon. We call this a dristi. You could wrap your left leg all the way around your right leg. That's going to require a lot more balance. Challenge for your balance. If you're balancing, on your next exhale, draw your elbows towards your knees, drawing your belly button towards your spine, and then we'll sweep the arms out wide, step your feet out wide, and allow that to shake off. So you can start to bounce the body, maybe bounce and shake, letting go of all of your effort. And then we'll come back to center. Find yourself in your mountain pose, Tadasana. Feel both feet rooted down. Bring your hands to rest for a moment at your heart center, right on top of your heart. And maybe take a moment to close down your eyes or soften your gaze and bring yourself back into your intention for your practice today. Then we'll blink the eyes open and we get to do the other side. So this time you'll bring your hands right next to your rib cage, flare your fingertips wide, stretch your arms out, find your glorious wide eagle arm, your wingspan. And then on the next exhale, this time, the left arm is coming on top of the right. Give yourself a little squeeze, and then imagine somebody in your life you'd like to send a blessing of support or a nice big hug to, and start to rock the elbows side to side, finding a little twist. From here, we'll come back to center, and your options are to build strength in your Utkatasana chair pose, bending the knees, sinking the booty back like you were going to sit in a chair, or to practice balance by peeling the right heel off of the mat, rooting down through your left leg. You can stay right here because it's going to be a little bit more steady. I forgot to mention the option to wrap your arms into eagle arms or keep your hands in a hug. Or you could also step the arch of the right foot on top of the left foot. Another option would be to wrap your leg around. So find your option that gives you the most appropriate challenge for your intention. Realizing it can be different side to side and day to day. And then when you're ready, we're going to step the foot out wide, spread the arms out, and shake it off. Just like water falling off of a duck's back. You could give yourself a little bounce, a little sway, gentle massage with the arms, raising your sides. And then we'll come back to stillness. We're going to get ready to come into Warrior One next. So you can step your right foot forward, your left foot back, your feet are on opposite train tracks. You might have blocks or a chair out in front. You can bring your hands to rest at your hips, bending into that front knee as much as you'd like. Or you can invite your hands to meet at your heart center. Or you could reach your arms up, allowing your heart to lift, softening your shoulders away from your ears. See if you can find a strong, steady stance in Warrior One. On the next exhale, we'll swim the arms back, either to the hips, or maybe it would feel okay for the shoulders to interlace the hands at the low back. So I have my hands interlaced, pressing against the low back, or extending them away. On the next inhale, you can lift the heart and the gaze, and then hinge forward from the hips. So you're going to land your torso on your front thigh. You can either keep your hands interlaced behind you, maybe that feels like a nice stretch in that bind, or keep your hands on your hips, or bring the hands all the way down to rest on the blocks. Bowing your head for humble warrior. Allow your torso to rest heavy on the support of your front thigh. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then we'll pivot so that you're on the ball of the back foot. So you're in a high lunge now. You can rock your hips a little forward and back. And then you can start to hop the back foot to meet the front foot, finding your forward fold. Feel free to walk your feet a little wide, finding that ragdoll position. Maybe wrapping your opposite elbows with your opposite hand and just soothing yourself with a gentle sway. We'll inhale to come back to center. Press your palms onto your blocks or your shins. Inhale to lift up halfway, lengthening through the spine, and then exhaling to forward fold. We'll inhale to rise back up to center. Exhale, draw your hands to your heart center, and then allow your hands to rest on your heart. Listen for your unique drumbeat of your heartbeat. And feel for that intention that you set for your practice. On the next inhale, we'll blink the eyes open and we'll set up for the other side. So we're going to do our warrior one along with our humble warrior. So you might bring your blocks out in front, step the left foot forward, the right foot back. Your feet are on train tracks and you can bend into that front leg. You can keep your hands on your hips. Greet your hands together at your heart center, or float your arms up towards the sky for warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. Maybe lifting the heart, lifting the gaze. On the next exhale, you can float the hands down to the hips, or maybe you interlace them behind you. You could interlace them the opposite way, setting up for humble warrior. So we'll inhale to lift the gaze, exhale, hinge forward from the hips as your gaze comes down towards the ground. You can keep your hands interlaced behind you, or feel free to bring them down to the blocks. Some bit of support. Remembering that in times of humility, it's okay to ask for support. Recruit help. We're all in this together. Take one more nice deep breath in your humble warrior. And then this time we're going to find a down dog. So you can bring your hands down in front, step the right foot back, or the left foot back rather, to meet the right foot. Find a down dog, or maybe a child's pose. Or maybe you want to come and sit on the heels in hero's pose. This can kind of feel good for a minute, or maybe not even that long. So finding any kind of resting position. And then when you're ready, we're going to come all the way onto the belly. So you might come through a plank. And I'm going to suggest a forearm plank. Before class, we were talking about some options for gentle strengthening of the core. So you might come back with your knees on the ground, your belly hovering, and your elbows underneath your shoulders for a forearm plank. Anytime you want to take a rest, just go ahead and lower the belly down. Bring the elbows underneath the shoulders, and you can find a Sphinx pose with the palms facing down, lifting the heart. And then whenever you want to rest, feel free to stack the palms or the fists to make a little pillow to rest your forehead. Allow yourself this opportunity to delight in a time of rest in Makrasana, crocodile pose. Softening all of your effort. You can have your toes touching down with your heels, falling to the sides. And from here, we're going to do a little bit of a heart opener, kind of opening through the chest and the shoulders. So just see if you can move any of your props that might be next to you out of the way. You're going to start by pressing your left arm long with your palm face down. You can have this arm out to the side and then bring your right arm in. I'm going to use a block for underneath the head, and you can start to roll onto your left side, opening through the front of your chest. So you can do this with your legs stacked. You can also deepen it by bending the knee, touching the toes down behind the bottom leg. If it feels intense, you don't have to go all the way onto your side. So you can hover over the earth. See about stretching through the front of the chest, the shoulder. And if you'd like, you can even tuck the right hand behind the low back. This is, again, kind of like that cow face arm, tucking it back. And then I have my head supported on a block, but you could also have it on the ground. Or maybe wedge a pillow underneath the head. Take one more nice deep breath here. And when you're ready, we're going to find the other side. So go ahead and roll onto the belly. You can stretch the right arm directly beside you with your palm face down. Maybe you drag a block for underneath the temple and then creep the right arm back as you roll onto your right side. Stretching through the front of the chest, the front of the shoulder maybe, and breathing into sensations. If you think you want to go a little further, you could bend that top knee, touch the toes behind the bottom leg, but that's just an option. Remember, there's no finish line. We don't have to go to our absolute edge. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then we'll roll back onto the belly. You can stack your palms or your fists and come back into Makrasana. Feel the rise and fall of the breath opening through the back of the body. When we change our position, we can change how the breath moves in the body. Maybe you can take a moment to feel into that change. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then we'll lift the head, press the palms underneath the shoulders, and you can press up into tabletop. And then we're going to find our figure four, and you're welcome to include a pigeon here instead. So I'm just walking my way over to the couch in order to have support. So you can find yourself next to a wall or a couch, something that you can press up against. So you can start to lean yourself onto your back, bring your feet up so they're in like a tabletop position. And you can rotate yourself a little side to side, like a little wiggle worm to get closer to your support if you like. You might cactus your arms at your sides, and then we'll extend the legs long. Take a moment to rotate through the ankles, and then you can bring your right ankle onto your left thigh and start to draw the shape in towards the body to find figure four, stretching through the hip. Now you can also do this shape, of course, if you want to bring your arms into it. You can interlace your hands behind your thigh, but I find that to be so much harder because there's further for me to go. You could also use a strap here, but I love the idea of using the wall for support or the couch. So that just sort of takes all of the effort from the upper body away. Relaxing your arms either into those cactus arms or just maybe next to your hips. Let's take a nice deep breath on this side. And as we're coming towards the end of class, you can always stay here a little longer. Sending your breath and your gratitude down into the hip joint. And then when you're ready, you can extend your legs long. This time we'll bring the left ankle onto the right thigh. Draw the shape in towards the body to stretch through the hip. You can always find a little bit of movement here, gently rocking side to side, or find stillness. Start to really soften and relax your effort and your breath. And then allow yourself to stay here a little longer if you like. You could always use this support for the end of class, coming into a gentle inversion, resting your legs up the wall or up the couch. If I were going to stay here longer, I would shimmy myself a little closer so that my sit bones were right up against the couch, and then my knees could bend at 90 degrees. Or if I was right up against the wall, I would have my legs up the wall. These ideas of gentle inversions are so good for us, resetting our nervous system. And I've heard it's helpful for our lymphatic system as well to find that inversion. We could even simply think about it as turning our perspective, seeing things in a new way. Feel free to stay at the wall or at the couch for your final rest, Or you can start to make your way onto your back. Feel free to cozy up with a blanket, bolsters, anything that would help you feel more cozy to relax into your final resting pose, Shavasana, or corpse pose. Start to deepen your breath. Letting go of holding. Relax your eyelids and your jaw. Let your shoulders rest heavy into the support of the earth. On the theme of Aparigraha, non-possessiveness, in the book by Deborah Adele, she says, the fewer attachments we carry with us, the more free we are to enjoy and engage and live every moment before us to the fullest. The more breath we let go of, the more room there is in our body for the fullness of the next inhalation. The more we generously share and give away, the more expansive and light we become. The journey of life is towards freedom. A bird cannot hold its perch and fly. Neither can we grasp anything and be free. Practicing constant generosity and unfailing trust will keep our greed in check and keep us open to life's unfolding. What wants to come to us is so great, and what we hold on to is often so small. Like a trapeze artist, are we willing to be suspended in midair in total trust of the timing and of a future that is greater than the one we are holding on to? You can begin to deepen your breath now. Start to invite some movement into the fingers and into the toes, gently rotating the wrists and the ankles. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and take a nice long body stretch and roll onto one side, coming into a fetal position. When you're ready, you can press yourself up into a seat, inviting your hands to meet at your heart center in a gesture of gratitude, Anjali Mudra. Allow your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. It's such an honor and a privilege to guide you through your practice this morning. So I want to thank you all so much for being here. Feel free to stick around if you have thoughts or questions about class.